Hello and welcome to your 2024 networking plan. Now, I'm sure many of you are used to networking. You've probably been involved in some networks for some time now, and you've come to the point and you start looking at and evaluating what's the value, what's happened, what's the outcome, and you'll be asking questions such as, you've been attending countless online or face-to-face networking meetings, and have you been getting the sales that you're expecting? Has networking been taking up a lot of time without you seeing return on investment? Have you been investing in collaborations and not getting there? And have you been making friends, but apart from that, there's been no tangible benefits? Well, before we get started, let's just take a step or three back. Let me start with who I am. My name is Pat Gross, the community entrepreneur here in Australia. And I've been interested and fascinated by networking for a long time. And it's to some degree, it's down to the experiences that I've come across in my own journey. And that includes 10 years as a conference organizer, organizing international conferences and also professional development programs in the UK. And what we were doing was new and innovative, and those professional development programs, we'd set up one, and then people would come and then we'd do another one on another topic, all relevant and all related. So people were coming to one, and then they were coming to another, and then they'll come into another, then they were coming to the conferences as well, because they were all relevant and related. And what we were finding was that people were creating networks because there was the same people were coming over and over and over again. And those networks were a new role, European liaison it was, in local government, in further education, in higher education, in the voluntary sector, in community development. In fact, every sector we were dealing with except for businesses, because we decided at the time businesses were not our ideal fit. And so what happened is that these people were exchanging information, getting to know each other. They were getting promoted in their own organizations, and then over time they became senior management. And lo and behold, they were sending their staff. So same thing happened again, coming and building up their professional development and their skills through our events. And what happened was that they then started creating their networks. So we ended up with two, I call my bi-generation of networks. That really fascinated me, and how we managed to achieve that as a byproduct of what we were doing. And that really came into being because I found myself in another role in another organisation, and we needed information fast. We needed policies, we needed procedures, we needed documentation, and I was able to tap into those networks. So there was a lot of gold, even by just having relationships with those networks. So that to me was sort of like what really, really got me fascinated in that whole ecosystem. And then coming to Australia and working in a government space, we used to work with communities of practice, and that's similar organisations with similar ideas, or working in the same domain of practice, coming together to create a community and to work to achieving a common outcome. So again, communities of practice, another realm in that area of networking, etc. It was something that I still am fascinated with today. And and over the years I've become a community development specialist, which means, interestingly enough, when I set up the business, it was to put business skills into the not-for-profit sector. But since the impact of COVID, and the implications that had on things like connection and community, I found that I've been able to take community development principles and put them into business. So let's start with a very, very basic principle. Exactly what is networking? And for many, it's not what you think it is. Networking is simply the exchange of information or services among individuals, groups, or institutions, specifically the cultivation of productive relationships for employment or business, according to Merriam-Webster. Networking is very, very basic level. It's nothing more than exchange of information, exchange of business card. So if you're attending the online networking environment, and Zoom is a really good example of networking at work, the most important part is actually the chat space. Because if you've got access to people's contact details who have quite freely put them on there, with the intention of making connections afterwards, then it's the business card. It's the equivalent of swapping your business card. So share the chat space and do the follow-up afterwards. That is the real networking that's happening. Yes, you're getting to know people in the room, and that does work as well, especially if you have got a uniqueness about you in that environment. It's very difficult to disappear in a sea of blue if everybody's sort of doing the same thing in the same title, but if you're doing something different, you'll stand out. That's works with me in the grants when I'd mentioned the grants and tender space, and I have people who approach me 6-7 years after our getting to meeting, because they remember me for what I do and as an authority. So yes, networking is basically the exchange of information. Same in a face-to-face environment. How many times do you walk into a networking room and you find that there are people huddled in groups, and it's like you're on the outside and you're not able to sort of like get to know them? That is the wrong approach. It is totally the wrong approach. I have a colleague and she is absolutely wonderful. She's a master. She doesn't care. She'll go into a room and she will work the room. And all she's aiming to do is to get their contact information so she can have a conversation with them afterwards. And look, that's a great way. So if you're in a networking meeting face to face and you're huddled in a group with people because it's a safe space, because you know these people, it's comfortable, just look at the people on the outside and invite them in. And at the end of the day, what you're really looking for is the opportunity to have that further contact with people afterwards and get to know them, who they are, because you never know when you might need to talk to them. Now, it's interesting, I just mentioned networking. Now, networking is actually one level on a continuum when it comes into the community development space. So networking is the exchange of information, a low level of trust, not much trust needed in that space. But then there are 3 more levels, and I find that businesses are talking, especially in online, talking from networking and they're jumping straight to collaboration. And they're missing out coordinating, cooperating. And I think there are opportunities there that they should be thinking about that actually will set up a collaboration for success. Because I've heard of businesses getting together with the full intention of collaborating, and somewhere down the line it all falls apart. There's different reasons for that, and that's again other community building principles outside of this presentation. But networking, and then it's followed by coordinating. And coordinating is a good example of that. I talk about a group of chemists in a town who actually spread out their opening and closing times so that the community itself gets the best benefit. And they're working together for the purpose of the customer base. So how can you work with other businesses to give up a little bit of your turf in terms of what you're doing, but at the same time you're working together so the customer gets the full value. The cooperating, that is taking a bit more. You might be looking at again releasing a bit more turf but more trust, and you might be working towards sharing resources, shared services. That's a good cooperation example, where you may have if you're a small business and you don't have enough resources, say for human resource management, your payroll and all that kind of thing, they may be working with other organizations or businesses that can work across a group of you. Think about that. Who's got a resource? It could be a person resource, it could be a physical resource that you could actually cooperate on. Then we've got that full collaboration where you're actually looking to improve each other's business for the good, and you're taking things to the next level. In this next step, we are looking at why we network. Let's consider this. And here are some examples. It's a strategy, and if we don't network or use networks, we're closing the door to opportunities. Or we network to collect and pass on knowledge, or to build social capital, or for personal and or professional growth. Can you think of any other reasons why you might network? Think about what you bring into the networks. Are you bringing your authority? Are you bringing skills and knowledge, contacts, your intention, business? Can you think of anything else that you're bringing to networks? Likewise, consider what networks are bringing to us, what they're bringing to you. Are they opening up the opportunities to meet with like-minded people? Or any linkages, clients, partners, referral partners, new knowledge, new skills, friendships, and new opportunities? What else? So let's now consider our networking objectives. Why are we doing this? What's the purpose? If we're just going out there and networking and we don't know what we're wanting to achieve, we have no idea what we're doing, and therefore how can we measure how successful we've been? It's not just about getting the money and getting new clients, etc., new sales. There are other ways, other objectives that we should be looking at. Here is a list of some objectives, and you can add to them as well. So yes, your objective may be to look for new leads and new clients. They may be direct or indirect. Another objective could be that you want to grow your business through cooperation and collaboration. Or you're looking for partners for projects. Or maybe you want to learn from experience and from others in the group who could be de facto mentors or even official mentors. Or you want to extend your knowledge and skills to grow your business. So many of the networking opportunities include an education element. Or simply just because you want to socialize and to grow your personal network. There's nothing wrong with that. So consider your specific networking objectives and goals for this year. For example, what are your objectives? Using those I've just given as an example or your own, but make sure that they are smart, they're specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time related. So in other words, by the 31st of December of blah blah, in this case 2024, I will have, it might be a financial one. Networking has generated an extra $100,000 to the bottom line, or it could be whatever it is. Just make sure there's a number involved, because the number involved makes you accountable, and of course it's measurable. And then that will then make up your goals. In other words, as I said, your goal is to achieve your income with an extra $100,000 that you can trace back to your networking. And then when you've got that in place, one of the things you'll be thinking about is, so how can networking help me to achieve an extra $100,000? What needs to happen for that to be the result? And that's where the magic lies, because then the deck chairs start to move and the opportunities will show themselves, because you've got a clear intention for why you're networking. When you're doing a networking plan, one of the things you probably need to consider as a priority is, what about your own existing networks? Now, before we start on that one, are you aware that we are connected to everybody on the planet by no more than 5 connections? So we're 6 degrees of separation from everybody else on the planet. And I know that works. I'll give a short example of a few years ago, there was going to be the appointment of a new TAFE director. That's the Further Education College for some people. And local to where I was living, and nobody had heard of him. It came from a completely other part of the country. And we heard this news. Actually, I was in a conference in Melbourne when I heard the news. And a few of us in that same space never heard of this person. But we actually looked around the room because we did, as I said, it was a national conference, and we actually found somebody in the sort of general location of where this appointee was from. And within 2 connections, we actually got that person's life story. And that was a very, very simple sort of explanation. But again, we just to think about that, we are connected to other people. So if you want to reach a certain business category or a certain individual, then one of the simplest ways to look at that is to look at through the networks that you have, or that through the networks that you have of people in those networks that'll have networks that will get to that person or that kind of business segment that you're looking for. So let's have a look at who's hiding in your network. I know this is a rather crude drawing, but this is the drawing that I use with people when I do workshops, and it's basically gets the conversation started. Now, the examples that I'm going to go through are not actually specifics, they are the placeholders to give you the idea of who or what businesses that you can unpack from your brain, your memory. So what we do here is you're putting yourself, if you want to look at your personal networks, or your business at the center of the table. And then in the top segments, you've got your personal networks, you've got your professional networks. And then underneath, we're looking at your relationships. And this is good. This is when you're reaching out to collaborators, when you're reaching out to referral partners, when you're reaching out to the businesses or segments that you want to do business with. So let's start here, and let's start looking at in the top segment on your personal networks. We forget about our personal networks. It's amazing. I worked in a department in a university where we did transnational projects, and one way that we managed to get, or not we, but some of the projects managed to get partners from other countries was simply talking to the staff and the students and finding out who was in their families, in their personal networks. And it was amazing how many connections were quickly made to make some very, very strong partnerships. So have a look at this. Have a look at your family and friends. What skills have they got? What connections? What job roles? If you're doing some volunteering, you may be volunteering for what I call the service networks, like the Lions and Rotary and all those, or a community group. Who's in those groups that's got some again potential connections. What hobbies do you have? Are you into sport? Again, who's in those sporting arenas? Alumni from your previous businesses, or employment, or education, university, whatever. And then your school friends. I mean, today Facebook, I've still got friends from when I was a child on MySpace. So again, with your school friends, your business colleagues, past and present, overseas contacts over time. They're hiding in your network because you've not thought about them. And then come to the other side here, and we talk about your professional networks. And what I'm doing here is getting you to think about listing the online networks that you're a member of currently. And they're all unique in their own way, but again, who's in those networks, what's the purpose of those networks? Any face-to-face groups, like the business groups, like chamber groups, the professional associations that you might be a member of. Your social media, I'm bringing out LinkedIn here because it's amazing. On my contacts in LinkedIn, I'm probably a little bit more selective, but my contacts in LinkedIn are very, very rich with skills and people that have got some relevant experience to my business and its operation. And also think about the networks that you've been involved in the past, because I still make referrals to people that are still running these networks. It's just that I'm no longer a network member, because every so often I go through my networks and decide these are my network groups I am a member of, and decide which ones are more relevant to me right now, because I'm not a member of too much and end up spending all my time networking and not earning money. Okay, that's very, very, very important. So think about that, and just put them down, and it's amazing how quickly that you're going to fill the top half of the page. And then look at the bottom half when you talk about the relationships. Now, I work with organisations in the not-for-profit and the business space. But in the not-for-profit space, the sporting. I've got some peak bodies in the sporting arena I work with. Different multicultural communities that I'm working with, different languages, different cultures. Again, it's amazing. So people contact me and say, I want to do some work with somebody from this type of community in this area. Do you know anybody? So yeah, this is really good if you're unpacking all those people that you have connections with. It's amazing how rich your experience can be. Charities, okay, business relationships with charities. So I've got a number. That's a focus on what we do. So that's on one side of things. So all those existing relationships that you could actually act as the gatekeeper for somebody who wants to work with those types of businesses. So think of it that way. What have you got in your network of kind of businesses that you could refer on to people in a bit of an exchange? Then look at the other side of the businesses that you don't have a relationship with, that you want to reach out to. It could be specific businesses, or it could be a segment of the business sector. I would like to work with more accountants, because accountants, all businesses and not-for-profits have got to put their books in, their end-of-year financials, etc. So they will have an idea of how these organisations are travelling, especially if they want infrastructure grants and things like that. Then yes, I can help them. So they're a really good intermediary to build a good relationship with. So I have some relationship with accountants, but I could do with a lot more. So yeah, that's where there's a deficit. So again, to consider that in this bottom corner here, it's a bit like perhaps elements of a SWOT, but it's not. It's like your opportunities in this bottom corner here is where you could find more. One of the reasons why you're out there in networking is because you want to find more of this kind. Okay, so yeah, have great fun. And have fun filling out the form, filling out this page, because you would do it in no time, I can assure you. So a quick recap is to unpack your personal networks, your professional networks, face-to-face, online, social media, your business relationships, segments, your access to customers, and your gaps in relationships. Who else in your networks or contact sphere has access to your market gaps? Okay, so you've unpacked your network. Now you can see some opportunities or some gaps or some ways forward. You've looked at how you're going to go about networking in the next year, your objectives, your goals, so that you can put together a strategy of this is how it's going to work. Once you put something down in writing, I can assure you it will happen. Beyond networking, though, there is still a sort of a curiosity about application of marketing skills, of mindset skills, of strategy skills. We get taught these. We hear them in education sessions. We hear them from coaches, business coaches, and plenty of opportunities for webinars. But we go away with the intention of applying what we've learnt and then do nothing. Well, I've been working on this for a few months now, and I've put together a strategic business club and mastermind transformation program, which we're about to start up online, so it doesn't matter where you are. And it is a weekly professional development mastermind group for business owners looking for a different way to learn and embed new skills. I wanted to actually bring the information from the masters. The masters are being the authors of the books over the last 100 years plus, not just 100 years ago or 50 years ago, but even to the present. And it's all about applying your learning through adult learning principles, basically. I'm sorry, this sounds academic, but in order to embed information, we really need to be able to hear it, see it, feel it, touch it, and all the rest. So this is to bring together the opportunity to work with a group of people, to analyze, to work with the masters, listen to, read the wisdom of the ages, so to speak, and to be able to then apply that to the current day or today, because there is some current day stuff out there I really want to investigate, and how we apply that and embed that in our business practice, and following the principles of read, learn, practice, embed, and transform. So if you want to know more about this, as I say, we're focusing on practical business skills, mindset, and strategy. If you want to learn more about this, then I ask that you contact us, because we've got the group starting up very, very soon. So it's not difficult. All you have to do is either contact us through the bit.ly link on this slide, or to scan the QR code, which will take us to contact information. We ask that you do this quickly, because we're about to start a new group. Become one of the selected few. We know this system works because people who have been involved in our trial have had those magic aha moments that they're never going to forget, and it has transformed the way that they're operating and how they understand how the marketing environment influences the way that they do their business and how they act as customers.